This program is a production of the Panoply Network, a subsidiary of Pizza Plea Media.
By continuing to listen to today's episode of Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, you certify that you are not an employee of the United Nations, that you have no professional affiliation with the United Nations, and do not and will not share any gossip with an affiliate of the United Nations, up to and including the contents of this episode. So help you, God Ben David. Welcome to Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, the investigative journalism program where I ask the question, whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's? I'm your host, Brian Thompson. Anyone who is alive in the world right now is most likely aware of current unpleasant events such as wars, etc. I will not share my opinion on the nature and substance of these matters, as those types of opinions are readily available elsewhere from qualified individuals such as podcast hosts who have started to read many history books without actually finishing any of them. Since this program is not a podcast and is instead an IJP, I am not a podcast host. And though I have started reading and have even finished over half a dozen history books in my lifetime, very few of them have to do with the history of our real world and instead cover the goings-on of places where all the short people live under mountains and the word magic is spelled with a K. But as a journalist, I am something of a scholar of the human condition. Quite often in the course of my investigation, I interact with people who might have some information I wish them to impart, but they are, for one reason or another, reluctant to give it to me. For example, I might come across the home address of someone whom I know worked at McDonald's during the heyday of McDonald's pizza, and when I show up on their doorstep to ask some questions, I know from years of observation of human psychology that they will try to metaphorically turn the proverbial tables on me and start assaulting me with interrogatives of their own. Perhaps they will ask me how I found their home address, why I chose to ring their doorbell at 3 o'clock in the morning, or whether that thing in my hand is a taser. At the beginning of my career as a journalist, when I was young, dumb, and full of aplomb, I might waste valuable journaling time answering these questions. For example, I might say I saw this person's comment about having worked at McDonald's in the early 1990s on a subreddit called r/BurgerSlingersOver50 and typed their username into the google.com information service, which showed me that they used the same username on facebook.com. And after befriending them with a dummy account posing as an old high school classmate, I was able to gain access to their Facebook profile with a high enough security clearance to view their photos, among which was an image of their house decorated with Christmas lights that, while admittedly pretty, really were not notable enough to deserve photo documentation in my opinion, but still cast just enough light to illuminate the house numbers and the street sign on the corner outside. As to why I might be there at 3 o'clock in the morning, I might explain this is simply the result of my having miscalculated whether to add or subtract hours while traveling through time zones on a cross-country Greyhound bus trip to visit said house. And as to whether that thing in my hand is a taser, the answer is, of course, yes. Not only is it an effective deterrent against anyone trying to harm my bodily person on the bus, but I also figured it would put my interview subject at ease, since the informant could rest assured in the knowledge I could fend off any anti-information knee-breakers or assassins sent by the McDonald's Corporation to guarantee silence. But years of experience in this field has taught me it is much more efficient not to answer these questions point by point, but instead just to wordlessly zap my taser as a sort of shorthand for, "It's okay, you can talk to me." It almost always works, except for the times my informants reveal themselves to have been dialing 911 on their cordless telephones behind their backs. But it is observations of human behavior such as these that have given me, and indeed all qualified journalists, a unique perspective on what people in my field call the 3 W's of psychology: what people do, why they do it, and how, silent W, to manipulate them into doing what you would like. With that in mind, even though I shan't be offering my opinions about current world events out of deference to experts, adherence to journalistic ethics of impartiality, and abject fear of the consequences, I will share my idea based on my unique insight into the human mind about how to end these long-standing conflicts. Which brings me to the disclaimer you no doubt noticed at the beginning of today's program. I may know how to end war permanently, but I do not have the means to implement my guidance. The United Nations, however, does. In fact, it is in their interest to make sure nations remain, as much as possible, united, lest they have to go to the great expense of changing their letterhead, signage, etc. If I told the United Nations how to end global conflict, they would be very grateful indeed. But the very thought raises this very question: what is in it for me? Or rather, what is in it for the millions of people I represent? Namely, those who wish to see the return of pizza to the McDonald's menu on either a permanent or at least a McRib-style schedule. Well, thanks to the aforementioned disclaimer, I am certain no one who works for the United Nations is listening to this part of the program right now, lest they violate their oath to me and face somewhat severe prison time in the Rusty Sink, which is the name of a maximum security prison barge anchored in international waters and managed by various world governments to house dangerous international criminals, such as people who hook 2 VCRs together to copy their blockbuster tapes. So, I am comfortable saying right now what my plan for world peace is, and it is thus: compromise. Simple? Perhaps. Elegant? Definitely. Profound? Well, I shall let history be the judge of that, preferably close to the beginning of any forthcoming history book. And thankfully, I now live just several blocks from the United Nations headquarters, which stands on the island of Manhattan overlooking the scenic sewage disposal stream called the East River. Of course, real New Yorkers, such as myself, know that the East River is not actually a river at all, but is instead a saltwater sewage estuary. But regardless, that is where the United Nations is. So, I took it upon myself to telephone the UN and leave a voicemail arranging a meeting between myself and Secretary General Antonio Guterres, wherein I will offer my solution for world peace in exchange for a pledge from the international community to pressure the McDonald's Corporation into bringing back pizza. In other words, a quid pro quo. Unfortunately, just as I was leaving my apartment to walk to my appointment at the United Nations, I quite painfully stubbed my toe. Thus handicapped, I endeavored to make alternative arrangements.
You have reached the Public Inquiries Unit at United Nations Headquarters. Good afternoon, spokesperson's office.
Hello, my name is Brian Thompson. I'm a journalist, and I was supposed to meet with
Yes.
Secretary General Guterres, but something has come up. I stubbed my toe, and I can't actually make it to the headquarters today. I was wondering if maybe he might be able to come to my apartment, which is not very far, just a few blocks.
Just one moment, please. Let me transfer you to his front office. Sorry, you just repeat your name again. Did you say John?
Brian, with one I.
Sorry, Brian.
Yes.
And sorry, what was the last name?
Thompson, T silent HOMP son.
Okay. And sorry, which affiliation are you with? Just so I've got everything in front of me.
What do you mean by affiliation?
You said you're a journalist?
Yes. Investigative. Journalist, investigative.
Okay. Okay. And so you're wanting... Okay. Can I take your number and I'll get someone to call you back?
Certainly.
It's coming up here. So you're basically what you're saying is later on today you're supposed to have a meeting with him or an interview with him. Is that what you're saying?
A meeting. I could interview him if I wanted to. I was going to exchange some information and sort of quid pro quo, but like I said, I stubbed my toe and I can't make it out to the headquarters. So I was wondering, I'm only a few blocks away, so I was just wondering if maybe it wouldn't be too inconvenient for him to just come to me.
Okay, let me just check. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take your number and I'm going to speak to his front office and I'll get someone to call you back. And your number's coming up only partially, 646-233-05.
Oh, those are completely incorrect numbers. I'm not sure why it's showing up with those, but I can give you my actual telephone number as long as you promise not to share it.
Thank you. Okay.
Do I have your agreement that you won't share it with the public?
No, of course not. No, I will share it with the front office of the Secretary General because they'll have to call you back.
Oh, okay, that would
unless
be.
they want me to call you back.
Oh no, that would be fine. Either way is fine. I'm very protective of my telephone number.
No, I would never share anybody's number. I mean, apart from them, because obviously they're going to have to come back to you to say yes, they can do it at your residence, or whether they have to rearrange it.
Right. Okay. Well, whenever you're ready, I can give it to you.
I'm ready. Yep.
Okay. It is 3.
Sorry, 3.
Correct. 5.
5.
8.
8.
Correct.
Okay, so I have that right. 3. 8.
Those are all the correct numbers, yes. I was supposed to meet with him today to talk about a quid pro quo, but I can't make it because of the toe situation.
Okay. So I will pass this on to his office, and then they will either call you back to rearrange or to say whether he can come to you. I'm not in his office to know his schedule.
Okay.
For the full picture. We get part of it here in the spokesperson's office. Okay, leave it with me, and either they'll get me to call you back or they'll probably take it from here. Oh,
and I should probably add that I am willing to pay for transportation. I can.
Oh no, I mean
I can have an Uber sent or.
No. He has his own security and so on.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be willing to pay for that. I'm not sure how much that would be.
No, there's no need. I mean, what I'm saying is wherever he moves, there's security, so the security detail. So, okay, so leave it with me, and either I will call you back from this office, which is unlikely. They'll probably have to take it from here, but I'll pass the message on.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your help.
You're very welcome.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Do you know what happened to pizza at McDonald's? Do you remember it? Please send all correspondence to pizza@mcdonalds@gmail.com. To support the show, please join my Patreon at patreon.com/pizza@mcd's for exclusive benefits. And for more information, including links to social media, merchandise opportunities, etc., visit pizza@mcdonalds.com. Thank you to my invaluable Patreon producers: Trisha Yates, Adam Crump, Dan Dreyer, Bipolar Biped, Grant Bacon, Jacob Ford, Joe Kajik, Kimberly King, Kyle Tarak, Thomas Young, Pam Gabriel, Paulie Egan, Will, Andrew Duffy, Andrew Ahmed Rubin, Billy Jean, Brad Allen Thompson, Gerald Lewis, Jay Poop, Calvin Thomas, Can You Fly Bobby, Laurel Paul, Mel, Mitchell Kordick, Opus Moreski, Paul Fu, and Ryan Guggenmoss. I'm Brian Thompson, investigative journalist.